Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to repot this Phalaenopsis Amboinensis. It's in spikes, so I'm going to be really careful with this. And I'm going to incorporate a little bit of slow release fertilizer into the mix, just because I tend to feed pretty lightly. And this Phalaenopsis are a little bit heavier feeders. So let's get started. So I am wearing gloves because I am repotting a bunch of orchids today, and I was soaking this in a solution of kelp and a little bit of fertilizer, and I had them soaking, and basically a scorpion looking thing came out of one of the pots, so it freaked me out a little bit, and I'd rather be safe than sorry. So this has been soaking approximately 2 hours, and hopefully that nutrient solution that I made for it will make this a nice, smooth, easy transition for this orchid. So let me take out the stake. We could sterilize it and add it back in, but as you can see, everything is nice and what's that word? Saturated. So it looks like we've got some algae growing in here. I'd imagine we're gonna have a ton of sphagnum moss. Oh yes, we are. So I am actually gonna pot this up into sphagnum moss just because it's already in sphagnum moss, and this one has a spike and I don't wanna disturb it too much. So I'm gonna be really careful, and I'm going to put it in the environment that it knows. I wanted to try it in semi-hydro, but I don't want to risk losing that spike. So I am going to take this off and I will come back. Looks pretty good. The root system looks nice. Not many dead roots. A couple to trim off like this one, but overall looks good. Of course, lots of moss, but we're going to rinse this off and come back to repot this. Okay, so she looks really good. I've sprayed her down with hydrogen peroxide. I've also sterilized the tag and everything else. And I am inspecting the root system, and everything looks pretty good. There was one root that I was a little bit iffy about, and then when I looked at it, you could see it here. It looks like it's a little bit dry on top, but it looks like it's branching a little bit on the bottom, so I'm going to leave it be. So I think I'm going to keep all of the roots here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put this into a self-watering pot, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I cut a little bit of a hole in the bottom so that the wick could fit a little bit easier, and because they're not gonna grab enough water through the slits. And I'm gonna bring it up so that the wick is facing up but able to touch the reservoir. I think that should be fine. And I'm gonna start filling it up with sphagnum moss, and then we will start getting our orchid in there. So in terms of how I'm using the self-watering pot, I'm not going to be filling it up with water unless it's summertime, because that's when I really need the boost. And that's the only time I really struggle, to be honest. It's summertime, keeping everything hydrated. In the winter, I don't want to make these orchids too soggy, too wet, and the weather's gonna be cooler, and cool and wet is not a good combination for these orchids. So I am adding the sphagnum moss to this mixture. I pushed the wick down a little bit, and that's okay. And now that we're halfway here, what I am going to do is I'm going to add some slow release fertilizer. So the instructions say to add half a teaspoon for an orchid if it's within a 3 to 4 inch pot. I'm gonna add half of that. So I'm gonna do like a 1/4 of a teaspoon. So this should be about right. I'm just gonna throw a few pellets because I'm still gonna be fertilizing this very lightly. But I just want to make sure that it gets what it needs, because my fertilizer regimen is a little bit lighter than what Phalaenopsis orchids need, and I want to make sure it's getting a good amount of nutrition. So I'm going to make a note of it. It's going to be for 4 months that it'll be fed, and yeah, I could top it off later on in the spring when it's back to active growth. I can add another teaspoon or so. I'm gonna get some moss and I'm gonna finish. Okay, I got some more moss. I ran out, so I want to get a little bit more. And we are gonna finish her off. I think she's good. I am gonna top her off with a little bit of bark. Let's see what she looks like. Looks pretty good. It looks a little bit steamy because I soaked the sphagnum moss in a little bit of warm water. Make sure I get that down a little bit. So there's a big air pocket in the bottom. That's okay. Pushing down, but trying to keep it fluffy. I don't think this is gonna move too much. This should be totally fine. Yeah, I think this is okay. This orchid will grow into everything. It's gonna be nice and moist. I am going to top it off. I have already sterilized the tag, which we know what it is. There we go. Phal Amboinensis. I've sterilized the stake as well, so I'm going to throw this in here. And then we will keep this right here. This beauty is all set. She's in a brand new container, much bigger, much airier setup, and she is going to have a flower spike very soon. She's going to give us some flowers. She will do very well in this setup, I believe. And she's in some fluffy moss. I wanted to put her in leca, but I did not want to lose that beautiful flower spike that she has. And I've incorporated the slow release fertilizer to make sure that she's getting enough nutrition. So I do a very, very light feeding for my Oncidiums, my Cattleyas, and I know the Phalaenopsis like a little bit more. So I just added half a dose, half of the suggested amount of slow release fertilizer. So when I water, she's gonna get the slow release fertilizer, which is activated by the temperature of water. And then she's gonna also get the regular weekly feeding. So she should be getting a little bit more of a boost. Well, anyway, I will keep you guys updated on progress here. I hope to see these blooms very soon. Hopefully those roots weren't too disturbed by this repotting. I didn't have to cut anything off, which is great. And we'll see how she does. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and I will catch you soon. Bye.